You bring home a package. Before you've even broken down the box, your cat is already inside it. Not near it. Not sniffing it. Inside it, folded into a shape that shouldn't be comfortable, staring at you like this was always the plan. You assume it's a joke. A quirky little cat thing, the kind of clip that gets clipped and shared and forgotten. But watch it happen enough times and a question starts to form. Why a box specifically? Not the couch cushion next to it. Not the sunny patch on the floor. The box. Every time. The obvious answer is that cats are just weird. Silly. Impossible to predict. That's the story we tell, and it's comfortable, because it keeps the behavior small. Except the behavior isn't small. It's consistent, it's ancient, and it's wired into your cat's nervous system in ways that have almost nothing to do with cardboard and almost everything to do with survival. Here's the thing. In 2014, researchers at Utrecht University, led by veterinary behaviorist Claudia Vink, ran an experiment inside a group of shelter cats. Shelters are brutal environments for a cat's nervous system. New smells, strange sounds, unfamiliar hands. Half the cats in the study were given a simple cardboard box to hide in. The other half were not. The boxed cats recovered faster. Their stress scores dropped sooner, their appetite returned quicker, and they approached handlers with less hesitation within days. The unboxed cats stayed guarded far longer, some for the entire length of the study. That's not a preference. That's a nervous system finding relief. Now, this matters because a stressed cat isn't being dramatic. Stress in a cat is a full-body event, flooding the bloodstream with cortisol, tightening muscles, sharpening every startle reflex. And the box didn't remove the stressor. The shelter was still loud. The strangers were still there. The box simply gave the animal one variable it could control, a wall between itself and a world it hadn't agreed to. That sounds obvious, until you look at what a cardboard box actually offers, and realize how little of it is about hiding. Cats are ambush predators. Not chasers. Not endurance hunters like wolves, built to run something down over open ground. Their entire hunting strategy depends on getting close before being seen, then closing the gap in one explosive burst. That strategy only works from cover. The wildcat ancestor of the modern house cat, Felis sylvestris libica, spent tens of thousands of years hunting from underbrush, rock crevices, tall grass, and shadow. A cat in the open is a cat with no plan. A cat tucked into an enclosed space, watching the room through a narrow gap, is a cat running the exact program its body was built for. A cardboard box is a perfect, portable version of that crevice. 4 solid walls. 1 opening. A vantage point where your cat can see out but almost nothing can easily see in. That's already a strong answer. Hiding, safety, ambush instinct. It would be enough to end the story here. But here's where it gets complicated, because hiding doesn't explain why a totally relaxed, secure, well-fed house cat, one with 0 predators and 0 threats, still climbs into a box the second it appears on the floor. If this were purely about danger and vigilance, a safe cat in a safe home should lose the urge entirely. It doesn't. And that's where a second mechanism enters the story, one that has nothing to do with fear at all. Domestic cats have a surprisingly narrow zone of thermal comfort. Physiological research on feline thermoregulation puts a cat's preferred resting temperature range far higher than a human's, somewhere around 86 to 97 degrees Fahrenheit, well above what most homes are heated to. Your cat, most of the time, is mildly cold by its own internal standard, even when you feel perfectly comfortable in a t-shirt. Cardboard is a poor conductor of heat. That's not a coincidence, it's chemistry. Corrugated cardboard is mostly trapped air pockets sealed between paper layers, and trapped air is one of the best insulators there is. When your cat curls into a box, its own body heat gets reflected back at it instead of leaching into a cool floor or open room air. Within minutes, the inside of that box is measurably warmer than the space around it. So the cat isn't just hiding. It's building a tiny, temporary greenhouse around its own body, using the nearest available material, because its species never fully adjusted to the temperature of your living room. Stack that next to the ambush instinct, and something interesting happens. 2 completely different biological pressures, one about safety and one about heat, are both satisfied by the exact same object. That's not a coincidence pattern. That's the kind of overlap evolution rewards hard. It gets stranger. Now bring the skeptic in, because this deserves real pushback, not a token one. A fair critic would say this whole framing overreaches. Maybe the box isn't satisfying some deep ancestral drive at all. Maybe it's simpler than that. Cats like small, enclosed spaces because small spaces reduce the number of directions a threat can come from, full stop, and everything else is projection. Maybe the warmth angle is an afterthought researchers layered on to make an ordinary behavior sound more profound than it is. Maybe you're reading ancient predator instincts into something that's really just a mildly anxious animal picking the closest available shelter, the same way a stressed person might retreat to a small room and shut the door, no evolutionary backstory required. That argument holds up for a while. It's economical. It doesn't require ambush predation or thermophysiology, just basic risk reduction, and basic risk reduction is a real, well-documented behavior across many species, not something invented to flatter this theory. But it runs into a problem when you look at what happens with outline alone. In 2011, researchers testing environmental enrichment for cats found something almost absurd. Cats offered nothing but a taped outline of a square on the floor, no walls, no cardboard, no actual enclosure, would still sit inside the outline preferentially over the open floor around it. There was no shelter, no insulation, no block sight line, just a boundary the cat could see. That result is hard to explain with risk reduction alone, because a taped square blocks exactly nothing. It doesn't reduce the directions a threat could approach from. It offers no warmth. The only thing it offers is the felt sense of an edge, a defined territory, a boundary the animal's brain is willing to treat as meaningful even when it provides zero physical protection. Which suggests the drive isn't only about physical safety. It's about the psychological weight of an enclosed boundary itself, something closer to territory than to shelter. This is where the story stops being funny. A long-time animal shelter behaviorist who has spent years intake processing frightened, feral, and surrendered cats has described the box, or any tight enclosed space, as the single most reliable tool for de-escalating a terrified animal within the first hour of arrival. Not medication. Not quiet. A box. Give a traumatized cat 4 walls and time, and its whole physiology starts to downshift, heart rate included, in a way that open rooms and gentle voices alone rarely achieve. That's not a cute quirk. That's an animal's oldest coping mechanism, still fully operational, still doing exactly what it did for its wild ancestors thousands of generations before your house existed. Now zoom out, because the honest answer is not one clean mechanism. It's at least 3 overlapping systems: ambush instinct, thermoregulation, and boundary-seeking psychology, all converging on one unremarkable object that happens to satisfy every single one at once. Nobody designed the cardboard box for cats. It's simply the first thing in millions of years of feline evolution that accidentally checks every box, including the safety of walls their ancestors never had to build themselves. There's still real uncertainty here. Researchers don't fully agree on how much of the box behavior is inherited instinct versus learned association versus simple thermal preference, and no single study has cleanly separated the 3. The honest answer is that they're tangled together, and probably always have been. So bring it back to you, standing over that empty package, watching your cat disappear into the box before the packing slip even hits the floor. It's not being silly. It's not performing for the camera. Somewhere underneath the domestication, past the food bowl and the couch and the collar, a wild ancestor is still running the same old calculation it always has. Find the walls. Find the warmth. Find the edge of a space you can call yours. You just handed it the easiest version of that it's ever had.